This program airs statewide on California Public Television and is a California's Gold classic. Hi, I'm Huell, and that is one of the most famous, most recognizable houses in the entire state of California. Take a close look at it. I'm sure you're going to recognize it right away. That is the world-famous Psycho house from Alfred Hitchcock's famous movie Thriller. One of the scariest movies I have ever seen. Of course, the Psycho house isn't really a house, it's a movie prop. And it's one of the most popular stops on the Universal Studios Hollywood tram tour. But it is a neat house, and it kind of sets the stage for what this adventure is all about. Because we're getting ready to visit two other neat houses in California, places people used to live that are deserted now. It's kind of our own little home tour. And if you're interested in where we're going to go and what we're going to find when we get there, as always, you're invited to come along with us as we all continue our search together for California's gold.
California, here I come, right back where I started from. Where the flowers bloom in the spring. Each morning at dawning birdies sing, and everything a sun-kissed mist said, don't be late. That's why I can hardly wait. Open up that golden gate, California, here I come.
Now, in case you're wondering just who all these people are and why they all look so happy, let me introduce them to you. They're all former California governors and their families. And all these pictures are made at home, the same home, because all these families lived in the same house, starting with Governor George Pardee in 1903 and ending with the Reagans in 1967. They all lived in this beautiful old Victorian residence located on the corner of 16th and H in downtown Sacramento. This is the home that served as our state's official governor's mansion, home to 13 different governors. These days, it's a state historic park and open 7 days a week for public tours. Now, when you look at this grand old house, you immediately think about all the history, all the interesting and colorful stories it must hold. And to hear some of these stories firsthand, we spent the morning with Kathleen Brown, daughter of former Governor Pat Brown, who spent her teenage years growing up in this house. Now, this was a real VIP inside tour, and as we quickly discovered from Kathleen, this was indeed a very special place to live. Now, this grand hallway here.
Right over here, as any mother or father would know, is the best place for a Christmas tree. And every Christmas we would get a tree that would go all the way up to the ceiling. And the grandchildren, my sisters and their children, would all come over, not only for Easter and Thanksgiving, but Christmas. This was probably the most magical home in the world to celebrate Christmas. Up here, missing over this couch, there was, you can almost see the shadow. See the shadow of where, there's a painting that went all the way up to the ceiling of Mrs. Huntington. And it was quite a remarkable piece of California art. And I think my mother got it so that when she wasn't here and I would be here and have friends over, Mrs. Huntington would look over the activities.
Kind of chaperoning.
Chaperoning. And we had slumber parties and watched the TV. And
lots of heavy, dark
Victorian
velvet.
Yeah.
As a child, how do you react to living in a house with all this heavy velvet?
Well, first of all, after a while, you just stop, paying attention to it. But we did, theatrical productions. You have to use your imagination. That's why I say it was a very magical house to grow up in. And we'd have the doors and close the doors off, and then it was very
like
reminiscent of
here.
Stages, right,
Yeah.
right.
All right, let's go upstairs. Because
Okay.
I know you lived how many years in this house?
well, from 1959 to 1966. Now, I was married at that time, and I went away to school, but summers were spent here. My eldest daughter was born in Sacramento, and I brought her home. My husband and I were living here during the summer months, and so my youngest daughter was born here. I remember bringing her up these stairs.
What grand stairs.
Yeah, the grandkids always, you know, tried to go down the banister, drove my mother crazy, made her very nervous, and made everybody nervous.
All right, we're going upstairs to the living quarters. This is a big house.
Big. It's huge. I mean, certainly bigger than the house that I grew up in San Francisco on Magellan Avenue. So it was quite a transition for me.
Look at the size of just the hall upstairs.
Great for cartwheels. When, you know, teenager comes home and gets a good grade or has some exciting news. Yeah.
So the cartwheels were out here. Where
yeah.
was your room?
My room was right over here. I took this room, and I think that this had been one of the Honey Bear Warren's room. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think the wallpaper is probably the same as it was when Honey Bear Warren was here. But the twin beds, great for, you know, friends spending the night. Same desk. I mean, I remember this silly lamp. And I did my homework there.
Look at that lamp.
I mean, it's absurd. I thought it was pretty silly then, and it's pretty silly now.
But you kept everything.
Well, there wasn't a lot of, you know, choice. This was the state's house, you know, and...
Now, Mom and Dad were down the hall?
Actually, my mother was in this room. This was her room. And,
look at this. This is elegant.
We thought this was pretty special, and she redid this room and took a lot of pride in it. You hear the air conditioner on. We're right on what is 16th Street out here, and it used to be Highway 80 before the freeways were put in, and it is pretty noisy at night. You know, the American Legion Hall is one side and the interstate highways on the other side. And so my mother, we lived in a, you know, little neighborhood in San Francisco, was unable to sleep when we first moved in. So she got the idea of fighting noise with noise. So the air conditioner would be on all the time.
You know, I just noticed there's a little room back here.
Yeah, this was her office. And
it's full of inaugural gowns now from former first ladies, but this is where she would come to do her work.
This is exactly where she would come to do her work, and her secretary, who was housed over in the state capitol, would come over several times a week. And inside this closet, she had all the gifts that she had been given that were all wrapped up that she'd recycle from time to time for grandchildren gifts and the like.
What a neat little room this one is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rooms up
Yeah,
here.
and this was my dad's room.
Now, were the rooms traditionally the same regardless of who the governor was? In other words, was this always the governor's bedroom, and that was always? I mean, did you know?
I suppose that's the individual choice of the first couple, the first family. But my father stayed up late and read and worked late, so this is where he would be. And there was a buzzer, an emergency. In this drawer, probably isn't there anymore. No,
the buzzer's gone.
It was an emergency buzzer, and I used to sit in here, and when my parents were gone, I'd watch. I didn't have a TV in my room, so there was a TV in here, and I would watch television. And I pushed the button once. I didn't. No one had told me what, and it was the panic button. And oh my goodness, the state police all came and arrived. It was pretty exciting. I think you should come upstairs.
Okay.
Right,
I don't know whether this is part of the regular official tour, but
this was the place that was really a getaway place. It's pretty special up here. This is the ballroom in here. Let's see if it's got any light.
The ballroom.
Yeah. See the floors?
Oh.
See these magnificent floors and inlaid? Before the Warrens came, in the early years, This room and that room were one room. And it was where they held all of the dances and the balls in the house. And this room was set up with two twin beds, and was a room that was like from a Jane Austen novel or Emily Bronte novel. And because you were so far away from the rest of the house, you really felt like you were on a tour back into history. So this is a very special room.
Wait a minute, what's this?
Well, this room is the office, but it was the other side of the ballroom.
I see.
And this was set up like an office, and I think earlier governors used it as an office. My brother studied for the bar exam here. When he came back and was studying for the bar and lived at the mansion, he used this to study for the bar.
Boy, they got a lot of stuff kind of just stored up here, don't
Yeah,
they?
this is off limits. Now, here's the place that was extremely unique and special. This is called the cupola. And as I recall the stories, Earl Warren or earlier governors used to have a poker game up here. So I used to invite all my girlfriends over, and we'd play hearts or, you know.
Up here?
Yeah, up
Can
here.
we go up here?
We can.
Oh, look,
And
it goes way up.
Lights, there used to be lights, Christmas lights around these windows year-round. We'd only turn them on at the holiday season. But they would be here all year round, and this was really awful. I mean, no one ever came up here, but it was my, like, secret hideaway. Come on
We're
up.
going up. Look at these windows.
Aren't they great, the wonderful round windows?
So would you come up here and kind of...
Come up and I'll tell you
Oh,
what I did.
we're not
do.
up
We're
yet.
not all the way up. There's one more floor to go before I reveal my deepest secret.
Okay, I'm out of breath. We're almost...
I used to get out of breath too. See, my parents would never come up because they'd get out of breath, so it was a perfect hiding place. Be careful of this. You can see there's a gas light.
Ah, so
There's
this
no
has been
electricity up here. It's only electricity down below, and then where we had the Christmas lights. We used to come up here, my friends and I, all the time. We'd, have sleepovers here. It was just like a camp out.
Yeah.
And one Halloween, when my parents were gone and I was in junior high school, I had friends over for a little Halloween party. And it's a great house to have Halloween in because everyone in the neighborhood used to come. People would come from all over and we'd do trick-or-treats. But in my teenage, mischievous period in life, we did a whole basket of water balloons here. And we controlled the lights downstairs. And as people came up the front steps, they did come up the front steps, I would drop water balloons
Out this
down.
window.
And no one knew what was happening. And then we would do the lights. Well, I did get into a little trouble for that, but it was worth it.
This
It was
is
worth
like
it.
a little castle, a little tree house, a
Yeah.
little, I mean, it's a wonderful space
It's
up
wonderful.
here.
And they say that Earl Warren, and earlier governors, if it wasn't Governor Warren, it was earlier governor, would come up here and he had a card table, 4 chairs, and they'd play poker up here with the gas light into the night because it didn't bother the family, it was away, and I suspect they had their spirits and can imagine what a good old time they had.
Okay, down more stairs. This house has more stairs than any house I've ever
It
been
has
in.
more stairs and more back doorways. It's terrific.
Now where are we?
We're in what was the breakfast room. I mean, this is where we ate breakfast. It's where we'd have dinner every night as a family. And I would sit at the top of the stairs when my father would have important personages for these state kinds of meals, and I'd listen to the important stories that they would tell, and just quietly stay in the background like a little fly on the wall.
Well, but that was part of the benefit of living in this house.
That was one of the adventures.
So the warmth of the house, the hospitality of the house, the homeliness of the house worked.
The civility. of the house worked, and I think some of that's missing in our politics today, of doing the people's business in a civil and constructive way, and this house lent itself to it. I loved the dining room. Look, I'd never seen anything like this. Gold trim on the ceiling, a crystal chandelier. This was majestic.
How do you feel being back and seeing tours going through the home where you lived for 8 years?
Well, even when I was growing up here, it was a public house. While it was my home, it was also the people of California's home. So I shared it then, and I think it's marvelous that it can be shared with so many Californians today.
Yeah.
It's a historic home just by virtue of its age and its distinction and its architectural elegance, but it is so enhanced by the California history of the governors living here that it's a treasure.
Our search for another neat house that no one lives in anymore next took us through some beautiful country. Springtime in Tulare County, everything fresh and green. Our destination was just a few miles outside the community of Springville in the Sierra Nevada foothills, directly below Sequoia National Park. Now we were heading for the Outdoor School of Science and Conservation, located on 1,100 acres of magnificent land and operated by the Tulare County Office of Education. You see, for 37 years now, the 6th graders from all over Tulare County have been coming to this school for a week at a time and learning firsthand about geology, biology, astronomy, forestry, and natural resources. Its abbreviated name is SCICON, and it's really a neat place. The kids love it. Over 7,000 students a year come here. Okay, we're off. Here we go. We were there to take a hike to a cabin located on top of one of the mountains, about 3,500 feet up. A legendary cabin originally built by miners in the last century. A place that back in the 1940s and 50s and 60s became home for an honest-to-goodness hermit. We were in search of a hermit's cabin. And to get to the cabin, we would have to hike several miles. You can't get there by car or jeep or anything except foot power. And we would be led on this adventure by 87-year-old Lyle Chrisman, a man of enormous energy, who's been taking SCICON kids up to the cabin for 20 years now. So he's almost as legendary as the cabin is. Lyle, you're wearing everybody out.
You?
Well, these kids, what'd you just tell me?
I need a ride.
He needs a ride. How are you holding up?
Not so good.
Not so good.
Fine.
Fine. Well, this is amazing.
You know, Lyle's taking it easy on us today. Normally he takes them straight up the mountain. We're taking the easy route today.
Really?
Oh yeah, Lyle's got one pace and it's full steam ahead.
Now, where are we going?
Well, we have a 1,000-step trail and it switchbacks up this ridge, and right to that little knoll just on the other side is the hermit's cabin and flagpole.
So we're what, another 10 minutes away?
10 minutes away, about a quarter mile.
Okay, let's keep going. Here we go. We're heading up. And you say that Lyle usually takes a rougher route than this?
Oh yeah, he's got a route that goes straight up that hill over there, and a lot of times the kids are just hanging on bushes and pulling themselves up. Wow. But he's amazing. He just keeps on going, and I think he's a real inspiration to all the kids across the whole valley.
Look at these.
Isn't that spectacular?
What are these?
Those are bush poppy, and they bloom in the foothills, one of the most spectacular plants around.
Wow.
And you got the poppies down here and the snow on the mountain.
Yeah, that's Moses Mountain. That's 10,000 foot elevation above sea level. And the kids can see the highest peaks all the way down to the valley.
And I tell you what, look at this. Lyle he doesn't stop for anybody. Look,
we better catch up.
They're leaving us behind. This man doesn't slow down for anybody. Hold on, Lyle. We are here.
Hey, congratulations. You made it.
And that is the cabin.
That is the hermit's cabin, Huell.
It's so little.
Well, it was probably built by miners somewhere around the turn of the century. And we don't really know who all has lived in there, but we do know that the hermit of SCICON, Irvy Elster, lived in that from about 1940 on. And this was his Shangri-La in paradise.
Well, it's definitely paradise. Look at this. What a view he had.
Isn't this incredible? We're at an elevation about 3,500 feet. On a nice clear day, you can see all the way to the Pacific Ocean. You can see Sierra Peaks.
Now, what is the drill? Once you get up here, what happens? What do the kids do?
Well, the students, of course, are interested to see how he lived. And so they're going to go in and look at his cabin. The first thing they notice, it's only one room. It's got a dirt floor, an old bed spring. There's still a few artifacts around that the hermit used. And so they'll be interested just to see how the hermit lived here. And
Can we go in?
Sure, let's go on inside.
Can we go in? Oh, wow. Look at this.
Wow, this is a mansion.
This is amazing.
No, this is my dream house.
Is that his shoe?
No, this is going to be my house.
You'd like to live up here?
No. I'll be lonely out here.
Did you think it was going to be this small, or did you think it was going to be bigger?
I thought it was going to be bigger.
You thought it was going to be bigger than this?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, this is where he lived all alone for 30 or 40 years.
Easily 30 or 40 years. He did some quartz mining, he did some hunting, but I think he just liked the solitude and the scenery and just this beautiful place in nature.
Now, I've seen pictures of an older cabin than this one.
Well, the original cabin fell down in the winter of 1983, where California had its heaviest snowpack. But it was resurrected through some local volunteers, and most of those boards are the original boards.
I got you. Now, Rick, tell us about this flagpole, because really that's really the most interesting, one of the most interesting parts of this trip.
Well, you know, when the hermit moved up here, he was by himself. And then when SCICON started, and all the sixth graders started coming into the program, to the camp down there, he liked to communicate to them. So he erected a flagpole. And legend has it that he would run up a pair of pants, some red long johns, a bandana, anything to communicate to all the kids at SCICON that he was up and well and working that day. So this is his flagpole. Looks like his red long johns have since weathered away. They were hanging up there for many years. But you can see this pole from the SCICON dining lodge.
Really?
And from here you can look back down and see the dining lodge. Let's go out in the rocks and look at it.
Look at this.
Isn't this a view?
What a view. Oh my God.
The kids can see their cabins, we see the dining lodge.
This is amazing.
Can you guys pick out the dining lodge?
Yeah, it's right over there. Right there. I've been like eating already.
That's where we started this morning. Way down there. Now this is interesting. This is one of the few authentic artifacts left from the hermit.
That's right. You know, Huell, I had mentioned earlier that the hermit Irvy used to hike up here with one leg because he'd lost a leg as a youth. Not quite sure how he lost it. A little bit of a mystery to that, like everything else. But he carved his own wooden legs. And as I understand it, this is one of his wooden legs that he had carved. There's a little bit of legend to this one, too. You can see that he bolted the foot onto the base of the leg. And story has it that he had 3 different feet. Now, he had one foot that would point up like this. And that was for climbing up the sky trail up to his cabin. Then when he was going to go down, he would change feet. He had one that pointed down. And he would use that for going down the trail. And then this one he'd put on for sitting down at the dining table at the dining lodge to share a meal with the students at SCICON.
Really?
So somehow we became in possession of one of his original wooden legs.
Well, this is his sitting down wooden leg.
This is his sitting down leg.
You know, there's only one, well, no, there are 2 pictures that we know of this man.
Those are the only 2 I've seen, and we have them down there in the lodge where the kids can see him. One when he is about 14, sitting on a donkey. up in Mountain Home State Forest where his family had a logging operation. And the other one was at a lake where he went with the director of SCICON when SCICON was just starting. So those are two rare photographs of the hermit.
So he really was a hermit in the strictest sense of the, well, what is a hermit? What's the technical definition of a hermit?
Well, I think for Irvy, he, as Lyle said, he loved nature. Almost loved natural surroundings more than having people around him. So he loved being up here all by himself with nothing but mountains and sky and stars and grass and flowers. And he could be friends. He liked having friends, but it was important to have nature first.
Well, there you have it, a look at two neat houses in our state that people don't live in anymore. First, we visited the old governor's mansion, which is located right in the heart of Sacramento, next to our state's capital. That has to be one of the most public houses in the entire state of California. And then we've hiked up here in the Sierra foothills to visit the old hermit's cabin, which just proves that people can get along living by themselves. And to end this particular adventure, we have chosen to just stand here on the side of this hill and look at the sights and listen to the sounds that Irvy would have seen and listened to when he was sitting up here in front of his cabin on a beautiful spring afternoon just like this one. So this is it, as we look out here on this spring day, a perfect example of California's gold. Goodbye, everybody. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you'd like to see it again or share it with your family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library, it's available on video cassette and on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727 and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.